Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the boys, Martin and Kevin. Yes, it's been a couple of weeks since our last fans forum, but we're back now. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 6,000 subscribers. I think we're about 200 away. That's all. So please do, if you're new to the channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help spread the word of the channel. And as it's fans forum night, I know we've got plenty to talk about, but your questions, your comments, get them all in and we'll have a good old chat about everything Aston Villa on and off the pitch. Martin, great to see you, mate. It's been a while, holidaying it up. You were in Turkey and living the life. How are you doing, mate?
Doing good. I'm back now from the lovely sunshine. The last time I said I was back from the lovely sunshine was all the way down under in Australia, but I didn't go too far this time. I said a bit more local in Turkey. I brought the girlfriend with me this time to introduce her to my grandfather and other family members.
Still your girlfriend after a week on holiday as well?
Somehow still my girlfriend, but I was getting some grilling from my grandfather about getting her a ring and everything. I was just getting more left, right, and centre. So I think the pressure's on. She's after getting the seal of approval.
Good. Well, that's all good, mate. And yeah, good to see. And maybe you got some inside info on Ozcan, chatting to us backstage about that. So we'll get into that later. And Kev, we were on a couple of weeks ago, weren't we? Fans Forum. Are you a little bit more optimistic about Aston Villa? 1st of July, pre-season round the corner. Are you now fully on Aston Villa winning the league next season? Or is there still a bit to go yet?
Well, it's all started badly tonight, hasn't it? Because I haven't got a girlfriend. I've not been on a holiday. So I don't know what else. I don't know what I've got going for me.
At least your camera's looking a bit better now.
Yeah, my blurry camera. I've just had a bowl of yogurt with some fruit. So, you know, look at him with his girlfriend and his holiday. Living the dream, Martin is. Absolutely. The exuberance of youth, Martin. I'm absolutely buzzing for you. I'm living vicariously through you, Martin. Absolutely. Am I more positive now? Do you know what? I don't know how it's going to go, Rich. Like I do believe, and I did say this in our chat group earlier, but you know, trust the process. And I do believe no matter what, you know, I think Unai could take a team from League Two and probably finish top 10 in the Premier League with how good he is. You know, and that's a little bit of hyperbole, but you know, you get my point. But it's who we buy, it's who we sell, it's what happens now. And I mean, I'm always optimistic at the start of the season generally, but I just think it was this spectre of you're going to have to make big sales. The rumours around Martinez and Watkins and, you know, big players, obviously, for us from recent years. And no, not loads of transfers happening. Other clubs doing business, other, you know, movers and shakers near us doing a lot of business and, you know, bringing in some good signings. And you start thinking, are we going to start to fall behind? But I'm sure the signing of a couple of youngsters, we'll get them in the squad, whatever, will kickstart an exciting summer of transfer business.
Well, that's it. And if they do well in the first pre-season friendly against Walsall, that's it. If Redmond gets a couple of goals, it's like, get him in the first team. He's already a world-class player. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that. Before we get right into the chat, I do want to say hello to Dale's daughter, Lily. She's watching and loves the Villa. So
hello, Lily.
For watching.
Hey, Lily.
And great to have you watching us tonight. And yeah, so Aston Villa pulled, I guess, the proverbial rabbit out of the hat, or the trick that they had up their sleeve, Martin. I think it was probably one of the worst kept secrets of the whole of the preseason and the PSR and the S squad cost ratio, whatever you want to call it, secrets. They sold the women's team. And I don't think it was any surprise to anyone when Chelsea got away with it that Aston Villa were going to do something similar. And I think it was 55 million or something that they've sold them for in the end. What do you think of the actual move? Do you think it's sort of, obviously it's well within the rules, but do you think it's a little bit underhand, or are you like, fair play, we've got it sorted?
I would more or less say fair play for getting it sorted, but at the same time, obviously this is a loophole now that one of the big six or Sky Six, whatever way you want to call them, was exposing these loopholes, big contracts as well. Now, are we going to do big contracts? Probably not. But that being said, obviously we sold a 10% stake to a different investor. That's probably at 5.5 million, considering we sold the whole women's team for 55 million. So the rest of 90% being sold to a different company within Aston Villa. So technically, you could make this sale more than once because you still have a 90% stock on the women's team. So you could make 10% stocks sales in the next 9 years now, and we would still be sorted for PSR or even selling it to different companies like a Chelsea would be doing. So that's what everyone's calling it. We're doing a Chelsea, and then we're selling the warehouse for 50 million pounds. How we're selling a warehouse for 50 million, don't ask me, but I just love the work, and everyone's kind of getting riled up with the back from the big six. But they've been doing the exact same things. They've been doing other loopholes to get around PSR. They've been doing different things, not just player sales. So if they're going to do it, why can't everyone else do it? Obviously, the Premier League tried to stop this. They didn't want these loopholes happening and selling assets as such. But in my opinion, I don't really see it as a loophole as such, even though it is a loophole. But when you talk about selling assets, players can also be included as an asset. But therefore, you're only selling different assets. You're not necessarily selling players. That's what the Premier League is trying to probably hint at. You have to sell assets to make profits. And they think that the main sort of asset is a player. That's just not the case. There's other things that are assets. So it is a loophole, but at the same time, it's not really because it's within the rules.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And Kev, we talk about kind of what it might mean for Aston Villa, I guess your thoughts on it. There's been other clubs now sort of complaining about it, saying they've had to do this, they've had to do that. And, Villa had to tread that tightrope last season. But I look forward to the day when, Newcastle United sell their women's team for 200 million, or Manchester United do it, or, Brighton do it. I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't it? And we fell foul of these loopholes getting closed at one time. So is it just Villa taking advantage of the situation as it is?
I think it's absolutely magnificent. It's one of my favorite things that's happened all year, because you can't play the game fairly like you used to be able to. You got cash, you spend it, and that was always how it used to be. And you can argue, that it could be unfair, but that's the way the world works, isn't it? Sometimes, But these rich businessmen buy into these clubs, and they've missed the window of opportunity that a Man City and a Chelsea had, particularly Man City with all their alleged breaches, shall we say? But they can't spend their cash, and they've got boatloads of it. So what do? Well, you try and do it properly and be shrewd with the signings, and then all of a sudden you see Chelsea selling, figurines from the club shop for $475 million, and you get my point. I did call the burger van one, actually, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
I think we've got a comment. Martin Williams says, sell the burger van next year for 50 million.
That if Martin saw my TikTok, or he's just got the same sort of wavelength as me, but I'll give him the credit for that. But I mean, it's not actually a warehouse, Mark, by the way. It's obviously going to be a really nice facility, and they're going to have events there, and it's going to be huge. But still, it's a lot of cash. I mean, the thing for me was Chelsea sold the women's team for 200 million. Ours is like 55. So, I mean, who does the valuation on it? Could they sell it? Could we sell it back the other way for like £18 and a Twix, and then
this is what Martin was saying,
and then resell it then for like 500 million, sell it back again for a Mars bar and 18 shillings, sell it back. I don't know. I mean, the point is, whatever loopholes are there, I just want to say, let's take bloody all of them. Let's take all of them, every single one, even the most obscure ones. I almost want us to just take the mick now, because this is the game that we've been forced to play. So if this is the game that we need to play to get somewhere, we saw it last summer as well, didn't we? With some of the creative sales of clubs, buying and selling players that never played for either clubs. But as far as I'm concerned, if you can't beat them, join them, and that's what we're doing to ultimately then try and beat them.
Yeah, precisely. Kevin said we've been working on that women's team deal for 18 months, apparently, and I'll come back to that in a second. Adam said, is it damaging to the women's football slightly? Really are viewed as an assets right now, and other clubs will follow for sure if they need to. I absolutely agree with that. And Gary does say, does that mean the women's team will suffer? I'm not so sure on that front, but I do think it would be classed as, Martin, it would be classed as kind of, like you say, just ultimately, until that loophole is closed, other teams are going to do it. You know, we know that the Chelsea women's team is not worth 200 million. We know that the Aston Villa women's team is not worth 55 million, or as they've kind of valued that, really. But I don't think there's anything that Premier League could say to it as such. Like, if it's a fair sale, if that's what V Sports have valued it as, I don't really know what else they can say. So, yeah, it's a. What do you think that it's going to make women's football suffer in the Premier League? How do you think it'll set up like that?
Well, look, I think first things first with PSR, the system now it's shrewd and it's open to all angles now, to all the Premier League teams, regardless whether they're promoted, relegated, because obviously there are going to be teams coming up and down. They're all going to try and expose it as much as they can to get finances in, and they'll obviously try and, you know, not be in breach of EFL rules because they've got such big profits that are going to come to them. But will it suffer for women's football? I'm not too sure. I think if we look at Chelsea, for example, when they sold their women's team, they seem to be just fine at this minute, but that's only because they have a super team, you know, because they still win trophies, they still compete in all cylinders. So you might see the bigger clubs in the women's section probably not suffering as much. You might see a small dip, say, in finances or whatever, but you wouldn't see them suffer as much. Maybe smaller clubs down the line, if they're in the second tier and their men's team is in the Premier League, they'll probably suffer because they won't have maybe the finances of the Women's Super League will have. So that could be the element of where they're probably going to suffer. And it wouldn't be a nice thing to have, for the sake of the women's team's game, being at an expense for the men, just so that they can have profits and sign these big players and try to win these trophies, which is a gamble. And that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a gamble selling your women's team to try and progress as a football club. And if it looks bad, say, come this time next year, that we don't get Champions League football, and it's like, well, why do we sell our women's team then if this is what's after happening? And then you're going to probably see protests from, you know, the women's game. You might see protests from the fans of the women's football team, diehard fans. Now, I don't watch the women's football too much. I would openly say it, but I have no disrespect towards it. And it's just something that, unfortunately, it is a loophole to be exposed, and unfortunately, they are going to be at the expense of that. But at the same time, if it looks bad this time next year, we can only hope that there might not be a protest as such, because if there is one, it won't look good, will it? It's not going to look great for Aston Villa or any Premier League team.
I agree. Kev, just to finish up and just to round off on this, I think Gary's mentioned it. PSR and VR are spoilt football. Are they good acronyms relating to football which are actually good? Match of the day, maybe. I don't know about that either. But in terms of like PSR, SCR, and that kind of stuff, you know, Aston Villa now have this potential, because of the 3-year cycle. It's now because they've done these sales, they can potentially lose up to 94 million now on their books for the 25-26 season. That's not including any more sales that they make across the season as well. Is it just a bit of a mockery of this situation? And and then the follow-up question to that is, I know lots of supporters have talked about this on social media. Like, we're just sick of being sort of part-time accountants now and kind of seeing how teams have to balance their books. This player has to come in, and what does that mean for PSR? And then what wages are they going to be on? And what does that mean? It's like, can't we just enjoy football again?
Well, yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to be like, you know, as per the Fast Show, you know, small boys, jumpers for goalposts, small boys or small girls, jumpers for goalposts, and you know, the nostalgia we had of football back in the day, where, I mean, I've always thought this many times, right? You know, you're not going to get a Leicester City situation. That is a pure anomaly, and still outside of anything Villa's done, and maybe my you know, national sporting icons have done. It's probably my favourite sporting moment ever, because I just think, you know, the odds of what they did, you know, the relegation threatened team, 7 wins out of the last 9, win the league, right? You get Denmark in a tournament, Euro 92. You get Greece in 2004 Euros. You're going to get anomalies, right? You ain't going to get what happened going back all those years, where a team like Villa, who got promoted 2-3 years before, finished second to Liverpool in the last year of the first division, or maybe the penultimate season of the first division, then have a stinking season under Dr. Joe, and then finish second, basically, in the first season of the Premier League, whatever. I mean, I know there's a couple of seasons in between that, but you're not just going to get that. I remember when Forest got promoted back to the Premier League, and I think they finished third. Brian Roy,
Stan Collymore, Brian Roy, yeah.
And my theory was
before your
always,
time, Martin, I think.
Yeah, Martin. This is like black and white stuff back in the day, the gladiators and the Romans and that. So
it's all right, lads. I was just a twinkle in my dad's eye, so don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah. We were out partying, or but then Rich out on the town nearly. But my point anyway is, if I can get there at some point, is that if you had a good manager and you had a couple of shrewd signings and a couple old heads and you had some good tactics, you could have a go. You could have a little bit of a go. Look at Leeds winning the league. And I know obviously you had a monopoly of Liverpool and Everton, but you could still get teams doing stuff now. Recent years, it's really been a competitive league, of course it has, but to really truly do anything, win anything, this season was beautiful with Newcastle and Palace winning trophies, but really, how can you ever go at it? So I just think that the whole integrity of the thing is a bit all over the shop, and I long for those days. But then you know what? You just got to play the game as it is, and it does make a mockery of it, Rich. It does, but. That's what football is now, and this is the thing. Everybody is now a CFO, aren't they? Everybody is a a tax accountant, whatever you want to look at, and it's become now every single year. It's almost become a bit of a thing where we're going to have to talk about the PSR, the SCR, the squad costs and the ratios to turnover to wages and all that kind of stuff. It's almost now become like a situation where you get used to it. You get Gavin and Stacey special at Christmas, and you talk about the squad costs in June. It's boring. I want to get. You know what I miss. And I'm going to say something now. I know he had his haters, but Christian Perslow, when he pulled out that Danny Ings text on my phone, I was like, "What? We've signed Danny Ings!" Jesus Christ!
Or the Dr. Tony emojis.
Yeah, I miss the fun of that. Like the whole what's happened. I remember being at school back into day when we signed Southgate, and I think maybe like Mark Draper same day. It was in the Birmingham Mail, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, we've signed some players." Whereas now it's like that. It feels like the fun's gone a little bit. So
yeah.
But I don't see it changing, which is a shame. I mean, it's not for the fans. And you had VAR, which obviously we've mentioned in the comments. It's another thing they bring in, which sucks out the fun for fans. Then you bring in £10 to join the season ticket waiting list. We might come on to that one. But all of a sudden, there's things happening to football which have gone away from what it should be, which is fun. So
yeah.
See you later. I've chatted enough now. Bye.
No, absolutely fair. It is. It's just trying to. I think part of it as well is like the pressure and the intensity and the focus that there is on every single Premier League game. It does add to the spice of it, and I know we get excited and we get passionate about every game, and I know I lose my head at many occasions throughout a season. But like it's like that intensity that it just fuels it, doesn't it? It's just so. Everything is just blown up out of all proportion. So it just there's no that kind of just relax. I know there's probably lots of people that still do that, but yeah, because there's so much focus, scrutiny, intensity put on every single Premier League game. I mean, there's focus, scrutiny. They're trying to build up for this FIFA Club World Cup, and no one's really that interested in it, and they're still trying to build it up. Players just want to rest, and the players just want to be off, but. It's just kind of sucking the fun out of football. Like you can't just enjoy. I think it's the same with players. Like there's hardly any maverick players anymore. There's hardly any just players who are just footballers. Everyone's an athlete. Everyone's has to play within a system. Everyone has to do this and do that. And if they don't do this and they don't do that, it's like they're out the team or they're not doing the right thing. It's like,
Jack Grealish,
Grealish, Gaza,
example.
Just kind of players that would just play that. Ronaldinho, I mean, he would get criticised now crazily if he just played the game with a smile on his face, strolled about the pitch. Remember Georgie Hadji from Romania just used to drop out on the left wing if he wanted a rest, didn't do anything, and then come up and score 2 goals. Like you never get players like that anymore, just pure footballers. I know it's a little bit of an old man's rant. But it is that fun I think it's epitomised by the fact that we constantly talk about PSR, VAR, SCR, all this stuff. That just is an epitome of like what football has become now.
Was that too? Was it
Yeah, just general conversation.
I agree. Next.
All my time. Next.
yeah. Anyway, guys, we've got over 200 in the chat, which is amazing. On the 1st of July pre-season, and we've already got over 200 in the chat. So please do continue to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow us on X at Villa Park Pod, at KTAVFC, at Marto Leonardo. Spread the word on X as well. And as I say, hit the like button and the subscribe button. Now,
can I just say, sorry, quickly, if you don't subscribe to the podcast and you watch it regularly, I'm going to personally print off all of the SCR and PSR rules and regulations, and I'm going to post it through your letterbox every single day for the next 2 years. I'll come to all your houses. Is that? Am I allowed to say that, Rich? Am I allowed to threaten like that?
Yeah, I suppose so. You've done it now.
I'll take it back. I'll just spam email you. Only joking. Just click the bell, wherever it is. That'd be great. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Nice. There you go. I do need to shout out Michael. What a super chat here. £19.99. Amazing stuff. And I think we'll talk about the rumours and all that coming around, and I guess the clickbait and all that sort of stuff. But breaking news, you don't need Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein to tell you that Watkins may be sold to Man U or Arsenal if they can get rid of their deadwood and they put the money on the table for Watkins. Now, look, we know Ollie Watkins is potentially available for transfer. Don't think that's any secret. And it's also amazing when they say things like Manchester United are aware of Ollie Watkins and aware of his skill set and what he brings to the club. Like as if as if nobody is aware of his skill set and what he brings because he's not on TV every single week playing football. Like if that wasn't the case and we weren't on TV every week, I'd still expect a Premier League football club to have enough scouts watching to know exactly what his skill set is. Like Rich, that is not groundbreaking journalism.
Rich, I agree. You see, that goes in there with the list of things like when a movie's hijacked, like when they take over the plane and turn it around to go to your club, or when you get the one where they say clubs have been asked to be kept informed of the situation with this player, as if like they haven't got agents and they're not all talking, like as if they're waiting there to go, oh, has Nassef dropped that email yet to keep us informed on the player? I just think it's all part of the hyperbole again, isn't it? It's all part of the story in the game. And Man United are sat there thinking, we need a striker. Oh, actually, hang on a minute. What was that email that came through? What is he all right, is he?
What was that?
Have you seen this? I mean, to be fair, after watching him in the last game of the season against Man United, Martin, I don't think Amarim would want to go anywhere near him, to be fair, mate.
Well, look, we all know of his skill sets, as we should say, to what he brings to Man United. I mean, he brings that pressing game, if you will, that they probably miss up top. But like, he doesn't really get that move to Man United, which is really poor, unless Højlund leaves. Now, supposedly Sky Sports came out and said it doesn't matter of the situation with Højlund for Watkins to go to Man United. But I just think there's a situation with Watkins where he'll happily stay, no problem. But I think for many fan bases, maybe including myself, I think now will be the time to move him on to get the value for your money, because next year and the year after, you're going to see his value decrease rapidly just because of his age, and you might not get the return on the investment that you made for Watkins, because we bought him for roughly around £30 million at the time from Brentford. So you want to be recouping at least double, maybe more, because this whole thing with Man United, if we tone down between 40 to 60 million at the time when Arsenal was bidding, then clearly we value him a hell of a lot more. So you have to kind of get your value for money now, and then you can probably bring in a different striker a little bit cheaper than him, but probably has a lot of big goals to his game.
Yeah, I don't disagree in the fact that, I think any player, regardless of who they are, is up for sale if the price is right. It's just who's going to put that money up for them. I think Watkins will be up first. I think Morgan Rogers will be up for sale. I think Boubacar Kamara is up for sale. I think anyone, if the money's right, maybe barring Yuri Tillemans at the moment, is probably up for sale. So I don't think that that's any surprise. And like Kev says, building up this sort of profile of, Manchester United and monitoring the situation and this club and that, and know of their skill set. It's just, of course they've got to do it. It's fine, but it's not as nowhere near as glamorous as that. It's just, Ollie's agent might be doing a bit of sniffing about. Villa might be looking at things in the market, but I just think sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, because if you do sign a striker and after Watkins has been, transferred out, I think anything, if that was the case, would have been done by now, because you want to bring that striker in pre-season and get them settled. I think that's the tricky part. We've got a striker who's scored double figures. Yes, he frustrates us. Yes, he misses big chances, but he's scored double figures in 5 Premier League seasons consecutively. That is not an easy feat to replace, regardless of whether you think we need to replace someone or not. The other thing is, though, Kev, if I was Ollie Watkins, if Arsenal are potentially wanting me, and if the reports are to be true, as I said, I already don't think they are, but if they're saying, if we don't get Benjamin Sesko or Victor Gyökeres, then we'll go for Ollie Watkins, I think that would piss me off first. And then if they're saying, if Man United then saying, oh, well, if we get rid of Rasmus Højlund, then we'll bring you in, that would piss me off as well, because I'm like, hang on a minute, you telling me I'm third choice for Arsenal, and you'll only sign me if we get rid of this other striker who's crap.
Well, it would be interesting if that's how they actually phrased it as well. Imagine that in the recruitment world. We really like you, but there's two other people we like better. So if she doesn't accept it and he doesn't accept it, we'll offer you the job. It wouldn't make the candidate feel particularly good. I do think, though, even though Watkins is a guy who really backs himself, you can tell that in terms of his interviews, and he's got high exacting standards. He probably is also realistic to think that Arsenal are going to be probably challenging for the Premier League again next season, and they've actually got a real good chance of winning it if they can get a couple of missing pieces. And Zubimendi will be a big part of that in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So I think it'd be a great signing for them. So a striker coming on board, the hot property in football. Sesko's obviously up there, absolutely. Gyökeres has been doing great stuff at Sporting. So I think he'd probably be quite calm about it. I think the thing is, for him, if he wants to move, if he does, and it's not them, it's Man United, then it really is European nights to relegation fights, possibly, isn't it? And is that they talk the same in the media, didn't they, about Martinez? But if you can be the goal, that's part of the journey that gets them back to where they came from. I'm not convinced they will get back to where they came from in a generation, and it happens in cycles football, doesn't it? Look how long it took Liverpool. I know they had that Champions League win, but in 2005. But how long it took him? It was a good 20 years, pretty much, before they were consistently at that top level again. And I wouldn't be surprised if something happened with him, but I equally wouldn't be surprised if he stayed. I mean, for Villa, it's easy, I think, with a bit of time passes, to be like, you know what, we could do better on Watkins. And I get frustrated as anybody does with the chances missed. I'm frustrated with every single one of them still. It's not when my kids do something naughty. I feel guilty when I give them a shoeing, but, not physically, but, verbally a shoeing, because they're my babies and I love them. But, the way they performed on the last day of the season, I could have sold all of them. I could have sold Unai as well on the last day of the season. It was that annoying. But Rich, you've said it really well, mate. It's not that common to get someone doing the numbers that he's done. Admittedly, if he'd finished, more of his chances, he'd be the best player in the world. Yeah. So replacing that won't be easy, because it's not easy in the Premier League to hit the ground running. There's been some highly rated strikers that have come here and have done nothing. Zepi Queno Redmond, what a name. He's only played 4 times, I think, like proper games in his career, 4 times. So here he is. Wow, look at that. The timing of this podcast going up in the world each day. I'm on it, basically. Look at that. I didn't even say his name, and you had his picture there. Everyone thinks I'm in private chat setting it up. That was just Rich's skills. But anyway, I mean, highly rated. We like him, but he's not stepping into Ollie's shoes, is he, if Ollie leaves? So it's a difficult scenario. I agree with you, Rich. I think, like a lot of fans, anyone's up for sale. I'll probably be surprised, like you say, if Yuri went. Probably be surprised if Pau or Tyrone went, and probably Ezri. But anyone else, I could see going. Anyone else. So, yeah.
Yeah. A few comments. Adam says people only miss Watkins when he's gone. No decent strikers we can realistically get that are knocking about. Kevin says no, Martin. Next season is the time for Watkins to maybe move on, potentially. Gary said this already, but players who leave in the last 10 years have not got better. Grealish is half the player, and City would have won trophies anyway, with or without him.
That's a good
Credo,
point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, Credo on Watkins says his output over the next few years at Watkins' peak is going to be well worth more than that 50 million we could potentially get. And who replaces that? Not for me. And James said a full preseason heading into a World Cup season. This is Ollie's biggest season, 20 goals incoming. United couldn't 100% can't afford Watkins. They won't pay the 60 million we should be asking. And Stephen said, as long as we don't replace him with miss more sitters than Watkins, Nicholas Jackson. So, yeah, interesting one. I think that's 71 NXY says, aren't Arsenal going after Gyökeres, Sesko and Ekiteke? So that's another striker who's ahead of Ollie Watkins in the pecking order potentially. So, yeah, you never know. You never know. So yeah, let's have a little chat about the new signings that have come in. Stephen says Zepaquino Redmond becomes the 23rd player with the colour of the rainbow in his name to sign for Aston Villa.
I love that.
Interesting.
I had that one up earlier. I was saying that one. I was like, what do you mean by 23rd player with the colour rainbow in his name? I was like, Redmond. I was like, right, fair enough. I probably just completely missed that one. Like, but
can we try and name the rest of them?
not tonight. You can have a few
Andre
in the
Green.
comments. Andre Green, yeah.
Andre Green, red and yellow and pink, and Nigel Spink. Oh, yeah. I'm flying in here, yeah. Orange and
any orange.
Violet. Did Dennis Violet play for us? I don't think he did play for Man United, didn't he?
No.
Orange.
Get us in the chat. So we got? Nigel Spink.
Dean Spink. Nigel Spink.
Nigel Spink. Zepaquino Redmond.
Yeah, red.
Who was the other one?
Red's the one.
You said someone else.
Andre Green.
Andre Green. Yeah. Okay, we've got a few. Just have to mention Sharik in the chat. Watkins won't have 20 shots in the right direction, let alone 20 league goals.
Go on, Sharik. We love it.
He's in.
I'm starting to think Sharik is like Sam's burner account or something. Maybe that's why people are missing him.
No, he's definitely not.
Sometimes when Watkins does well and they're always asking for Sam, and then you see Sharik coming up with all these comments, I'm starting to think maybe 1-1 is the same.
But yeah, I mean, you just. So go on, Kev.
I was going to say, has anyone ever seen Sharik and Sam in the same room?
Well, look, this is the thing. Yeah. But yeah, we announced two signings today. Redmond from Feyenoord, I believe, and I think he has 9 first team appearances, maybe 4 in the league. But yeah, surely one for the future, Kev. But Yassine Özcan is a bit more of an interesting one because he's already played multiple games in the Turkish league. And he's actually had a full cap for Turkey. So it is, I said to Martin before the show, I'm getting maybe Dean Howson vibes from Özcan. Do you think he might be a player that features more for the first team?
Wow, you know what? There's been lot of talk about him, hasn't there? Has been a real star of the future. It seems to me with Unai, he doesn't seem to trust the young defenders too much. You know, I know that Bo Hardy got a few games, but was kind of shunting across, wasn't he, to sort of bit midfield, bit right back. Kostin Nedeljkovic didn't get a huge amount of game time as well. Garcia came on board and then was out again after he looked like he's playing pretty well. But at some point they've got to play it, and at some point they've got to start. It would be brilliant. I would love us to have a young lad playing the team. You know, like when obviously when JJ came through, and obviously Jack before that, and that sense you get from a youngster. Like Morgan obviously was a young lad and was doing really well. It gives you a sense of the future. And we are obviously pretty well stocked at centre back, but there's obviously a spot, isn't there? So is he going to take it?
Yeah. Well, that's it. I hope so. And you were getting some inside information from your holiday, Martin, on Özcan, and very, very highly rated by the people that you were chatting to, even to the point of saying he shouldn't be signing for Aston Villa. He should be signing for much bigger clubs.
Evet güzel adam. That means, yes, he's a beautiful man, obviously. So we're obviously looking forward to this one. Yes, I did learn a bit of Turkish, Kev. If you were a bit shocked there, I could see in your face.
That was good. No, we were impressed, mate. Not shocked. We were impressed.
I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was your Irish accent or your Irish language. I wasn't sure what it was.
Poke my home, Kev. But no, I was getting some. Obviously, when we were in Turkey. I was told by some Turkish people when I was wearing my Villa jersey that Özcan's joining Aston Villa. I thought maybe he would be going to the bigger clubs. Even the Kazaspor fan I was even talking to was like, "You've got Özcan. You will love him. You will love him." Right? And I was speaking. Then I spoke a little bit Turkish to him. He just looked at me and went, like, he just couldn't believe what I was saying to him. Like, and he was like, "Are you Turkish?" I said, "No, I'm Irish." And then he didn't know what to believe, whether I was can't join Aston Villa or an Irish person talking Turkish to him without no problems at all. But he was. Some people were just telling me that we've really got a player in our hands for such a young age, and a Turkish international as well at times that he's been called up. So you're probably right, Rich. It is a bit of a hoist of voice, but at the same time, he doesn't really have any pressure coming into the club because there's going to be players ahead of him now. You might see him progress into the first team or being on, the bench to learn under certain players, or maybe you could see him go on loan depending on how the window goes, and it's the same for Redmond depending on how the window goes. But depending on how the window goes, Redmond and Özcan may go out on loan to different European clubs to get more experience, but I hope they kind of stick around because I think we need depth and quality now everywhere in the pitch.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, I think we've got a few questions coming in about Barrenechea and Illing Jr. And I think a full pre-season, and I guess not a sort of protracted one that we had last season where players were coming in, there was uncertainty about who was moving out, and then we had, players that Emery wanted to shift but he couldn't, players coming back from different tournaments at different times. I'm hoping this one is a bit more settled, but I don't know about you, Kev, but depending on who we sign, obviously it'll be clearer picture, but players like Ian Matson, 21, 22, players like Amadou Onana, 23, Illing Jr., potentially seeing what he can give in pre-season, and Barrenechea, 24 years of age. I don't know, is the profile of the squad going to change slightly with potentially Özcan as well in there, Garcia and Redmond? Like, are we going to see more of a younger looking, fresher, faster Aston Villa?
Well, it would be good, wouldn't it? Someone said in the comments that we lack pace, and I think when Bailey seemed to lose half a yard of pace with the latest,
so noticeable, isn't it?
Injuries he had, and obviously Diaby went out of the team and he was rapid. I think for all of the things that Diaby didn't do great, and the slight disappointment in terms of being a bit underwhelmed by his output. I mean, obviously he still did pretty well with goals and assists, but we thought he'd be better, and then he left after a year. We really missed that pace, particularly start of the season. So I think we do need energy and pace. There's been times in big games, think about the Palace game, think about the Man United game where we've looked a bit leggy and a bit flat. And I do think when he's running some of these players into the ground, because obviously they are key to the squad, they're bringing in fresh faces who've got bags of energy and, they could run for days is important. My thought process is that will they all be part of the squad? How many of these are going to be sticking around? I don't see that. I don't see Illing Jr. and Gaz Oaks said it slightly less politely than me. I don't see him probably making the grade at Villa from what I've seen. Barrenechea has been highly rated, so we'll see what happens with that one. And the other one, I think Matson will see more of this season. Özcan we've discussed. Redmond, Case Sarasa. I got Rory Wilson as well, who might do something.
I mean, we forget Morgan Rogers is 23, so again, it's like, what more can you expect from him? Onana's 23. It's like there's a lot. There is. We know we brought in older players in the loan signings of Asensio and Rashford. I say older, but you know what I mean.
More experience.
But but a lot of people are saying, Emery doesn't necessarily trust the youth players or trust the young players, Martin, to, I guess, play more first team football. But one, do you see that changing a little bit? And two, maybe with the Europa League and I guess some games that aren't as, in quotes, difficult as some of the Champions League games, and also us having a bit more experience of European football now. Is that an option for Emery to utilise some of the younger players in those games?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's been known that Emery likes to have an older squad as such, and definitely an older starting 11 for more experience, just in football in general. But what we're seeing now is probably going to be a sort of a shift in terms of age, because you have to remember, I think Malin's still only 24, 25. Onana said 23. Ian Matson's 23. Who else? We still have Jacob Ramsey, who's still quite young. So we have quite a lot of good youth all around the pitch and plenty of energy, which I think is something that we need. It's all good and well having experience, and you have to try and find the right balance. But I think to have your experienced players, they should be in centre back for me, or on goals, or maybe one in midfield. There should be the areas basically in the middle of the pitch where your experience should be, and all in your wide areas should be young, energetic, pace to born on the pitch. And I think that's really going to work well for us in the Europa League. And we all know that Emery's Europa League master. He's won, 4 trophies, 3 with Sevilla, 1 with Villarreal. And, if you can do it with Aston Villa, I mean, imagine doing it with 3 Villas that he's been with: Sevilla, Villarreal, Aston Villa. That'd be 3 Villas he's won the Europa League with. And that sounds absolutely appetizing to me. And if he does win the Europa League, I mean, it would be, sensational. Although you might think it's not the Champions League, but it's still a trophy.
It'd be dreams, wouldn't it? It'd be dreams. It'd be winning a trophy for Aston Villa and then also securing Champions League football for the following season. So I don't think you could get much of a dream scenario.
And I think with the squad that we have, I think if we can get to the quarterfinal of the Champions League with the squad that we had, I think with the squad that we have now, I just think we can go and win this Europa League, or maybe even get to a final. I just think, the objective for Europa League is to win it. Same for Conference League is to win it. When we got to a semi-final and unfortunately didn't do well, but I think the objective for the Europa League is to go and win it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple of questions, and we'll round up with a few questions as well to finish up. I do want to just say we've got nearly 300 watching, which is amazing. So please, guys, thank you so much for your support. I know it's been a couple of weeks since the Fans Forum, but great to have you all in the show. Make sure you hit the like and hit the subscribe button as well. Help us keep continuing to grow the channel. We're getting very close to 6,000, so love to get there before the start of the season. Micah says, is there pressure to win the Europa League? Looking on the outside, I think you guys have to win it. What do you think, Kev? I think we got a question. Where was it from? Gaz, I think, said, would you take 17th in the Europa League win? So, yeah, probably answer those two at the same time. Is you on mute as well? Is there pressure to win it? And would you take a Tottenham Hotspur situation?
First of all, I'm still having dreams when Martin said pace to burn. Martin, say that again one more time. Pace to burn.
Pace to burn.
Pace to burn.
Pace to burn.
Beautiful. Honestly, I started to get love hearts in my eyes. No, I think we're way better than 17th in a Europa League win. I think that no matter what happens, we've seen with Unai already, how the league season went with the Champions League quarter-final, and we should really have got back in the Champions League via our league performance, and we got to the FA Cup semis. So he's proven he can do that with his squad. He can do it. I don't know who Micah supports, but good question. I don't think we have to win anything, really. I don't think the pressure's at that level for the club. I think the fans think it's been long enough now since we've won a proper trophy. I'm not going to include the Peace Cup or the Orange Trophy for that pre-season. In that jokes or the playoff trophy. So and I do think it's a really good chance for us, as you said, Rich. To win a major trophy, which would be Unai's 5th in it, which would be obviously a phenomenal achievement for him to win 5 of them. To get back in the Champions League, to give the Villa fans some great nights, and look, it's going to be big ties home and away again, for the fans to enjoy. But it's a horrible question, this, because
Arsenal fan is Micah.
Cool, nice one.
Probably the most honest Arsenal fan. He thinks Emery's going to win a trophy for Villa because all the other ones are kind of saying completely different.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a tricky one, this, because I'm interested to see what the fans say. You get back in the Champions League, knowing what it does for the club versus winning any trophy. Well, I would take the trophy, but realistically, you probably add a bit of a push for the Premier League.
Yeah.
The Carabao Cup, we don't seem to compete in, although maybe if we're still in it at latter stages, you might have a go at it. And the FA Cup, we are allergic to winning, apparently. So maybe Europa League is the one.
Yeah. But just to ask you, Kev, though, right? Because you did say that, the pressure of winning the trophy for Villa is not probably expected for the club. But do you think with Unai Emery's achievements so far, we're coming from 17th, getting to 7, and everyone else in the comments can answer this as well once I finish. going from 17th to 7th to get Conference League, to get to the semi-final then of the Conference League next season, all while getting Champions League football, then the next season to get an FA Cup semi-final, a Champions League quarter-final, all while finishing 6th in the league, which is respectively very well done if you ask me. I know I'll be on that. You probably wouldn't have liked how it was done. But would you not think now, this season or maybe next season after that one, a trophy should be an expectation for Aston Villa?
I think it should be an expectation. So. I think an expectation, definitely. But I think having an expectation then saying we have to win a trophy or suggest that, Unai's position would be, or this team's, we're already seeing the team potentially breaking down. This team that we've all grown to love over the last few years. Obviously Louise went, if Martinez goes, obviously Dendonk is going to be a big miss, jokes. But, obviously we've got a situation where key players for us have moved on or might be moving on soon. And it might just be a different iteration of that team that is the one that does get us that trophy. And we'll be like, oh my God, that amazing centre-back or striker. But forgetting that it was like with Dean Smith and everything he did to get us to this point, like with Watkins and Martinez would have done to get us to this point. And I want the expectation, me, lads, everyone in the chat knows me. I still think we've got a chance to win the Premier League.
Someone's got to win it.
You know what? You're in the competition. You've got a good manager. You have a good start. Let's see what happens. But I don't think there's that level of pressure yet. I don't think it's like it would be if you were a Maresca in 2 years or maybe an Arteta in a season. I think that pressure's cranked up there. But for me, internally...
he's in phase 300 now at this point, so...
What?
He's in phase 300.
Yeah.
Arteta's in phase 300. We don't even know what phase he's on anymore.
Yeah, but you know what? He's built a good squad, and I think they're gonna win something this season, Arsenal. But anyway, it's not an Arsenal podcast, so... Yeah.
Sharik does say, quick question: Spurs, Newcastle, West Ham, Palace all won trophies. Are we now the new Spurs?
Oh, God, it's really harsh.
It's harsh, isn't it?
It's really harsh. Yeah.
It's harsh. Not yet. I wouldn't say yet. We haven't got there yet.
We haven't got the stadium for it.
No.
Jokes.
But I think you summed it up quite well there, Martin, in terms of yes, it was so frustrating last season. And yes, I do think Villa's mindset, I think Emery's mindset in some of these quote unquote big games where we may be expected to win really does need to improve next season. Yes, we can perform against Arsenal at the Emirates or perform against Bayern Munich at home in the Champions League where kind of no one expects us to win and all that kind of stuff. But losing to Palace at Wembley when we should have put up a much better fight and won the game, really, or at least given ourselves the opportunity to win the game. Beating Sheffield United even to go top of the league at Christmas at home, losing to Manchester United when they've just got off the back of losing in the Europa League final is, that's the disappointing part. That's where Unai Emery really needs to improve, in my opinion. And then ultimately change the mindset of the players because for whatever reason, they can't get that over the line. And a part of me thinks the fans are to blame a little bit from that as well, because as soon as we lose a game like that, I'm angry, I'm going crazy, but then I kind of get, not saying I'm anymore, but the anger kind of gets shouted down by other Villa fans who say, oh, well, 6 years ago, we were in the Championship, what are you losing your head for, blah, 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 blah. And it's I think sometimes that we limit ourselves as supporters, we limit the club as supporters by not having the mindset that we should be winning these games, we should be winning a trophy, or we should be challenging for the Champions League. So I'm hoping that kind of, because we've had these 2 seasons of real consistency in Europe and consistency in the Premier League, that us as fans change our mindset, that then in turn changes the mindset of the players and changes the mindset of the manager.
Yeah, but I just think if you look at the Villa players, right, obviously a lot of these players haven't had experience in winning big things, right? You just have to kind of look at it. So you would say maybe this summer, would you look at probably signing players that have had experience in big games, how to get you over the line in these areas, how to get you over the line somewhere else. These are maybe targets that, everyone wants to look at. Can I get someone in? Or maybe more than just one, maybe 2 players in who know how to get over the line, know how to maybe calm the dressing room down when everything just feels so hectic at half time in a match. These are things that you kind of need to bring in. Yes, you can have all the young energy players you can have in your squad, but you can't beat experience. You can't beat that mentality of players who've been at that highest level of winning trophies here, regardless of what trophy it is. You probably would need to bring somebody in to get you over that line, because then all them players would feel that the year after.
No, I agree to an extent as well. And I think sometimes the fact that I'm hoping that the experience that the players have gone through from last season, that disappointment, kind of spurs them on to have high expectations of each other. But I think, as I say, us as fans need to really get out of that mindset of, 7 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever it was, we were playing against Rotherham away. Like, that's gone now. We've done that. We've been there and done it. Like, yes, we've had a good time. Yes, we've done well in the Premier League. Yes, now we are a bona fide top 6 side. We've got to keep and maintain that, and we've got to keep pushing on. And we've got to have that expectation of players. It doesn't mean that you don't like them. It doesn't mean that you don't think that they're good players, but you have to kind of have that mentality that we should be beating these teams. We shouldn't be accepting a performance like that against Crystal Palace at Wembley. Like, that is just, I think Adamski said it in the chat, it's pathetic. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. And as Gary said, we need mentality monsters.
Yeah.
Just a couple where we did mention about sort of young players and maybe the youth of the squad being something that's going to change across the season. But we have seen a couple of players, one definitely depart. One, I'm sure, will depart, but whether it's to the club that was announced yesterday is still up for debate. But Kane Kester-Hayden, Kev, moving to Coventry. I think a £5 million deal, but a real significant sell-on clause put in there. And then it was looking like Louis Barry was going to Hull for £3.5 million with a 50% sell-on clause. But there's talk of like Hull maybe not being able to afford that fee. I do think he'll move. I think it might even move to Birmingham City, if I'm being honest. But, I mean, what do you think? Is it a shame for those two players? Or do you think, this is what the academy is there for? Do you think it's really cheap in terms of what we sold them for? Or do you think that sell-on clause kind of makes up for it potentially?
Well, you've got to be realistic, haven't you? We all want our players to go for tons of cash. And I think we saw, Aaron Ramsey going for 14 million when I don't think he'd played. I don't know if he'd maybe made a Premier League appearance or two. I'm not sure, but not much, basically. That was obviously quite a big fee. Archer hadn't really played a huge amount, and we got, I think, 20 for him. Now, obviously, Barry and Kester-Hayden haven't played. I don't think they've played. I think Kester-Hayden maybe made a couple of appearances in the Prem. But
he did, yeah.
Yeah,
not loads.
Barry obviously had that, that FA Cup COVID-stricken, team.
When he was 16.
When he was 16, yeah. But boom. Yeah. But that's what the academy is for. And this is the whole point. Is you're making, whether it's going to be 7-8 million quid, add-ons, 9 million quid. And then potentially one of them makes it and does something in 3 or 4 years and gets sold for 40 million. You make some more money. They're not going to get in the squad. If they were good enough for the squad, then they'd be around. So what you're supposed to do is stockpile the players and, you move them out. You give them an opportunity for a career. And yeah, you bring someone else in. I mean, I think Barry's probably always looked like he might be physically not quite strong enough for the league. Kester-Hayden's really highly rated. I remember him even when he was on loan, playing brilliantly against Man City in the FA Cup, didn't he, live on BBC? But I don't know if they're going to be good enough to make an impact for us. So, yeah, it's a heavy heart because particularly with Barry, being a Villa lad, you want him to come through. But yeah, I think you're better off making the money, getting it on the books, and moving on.
Yeah, well, the old PSR comes into play as well. $5 million deal for Kester-Hayden and pure profit and all that jazz. And then, as I say, a 50% sell-on clause. You probably, like you said, Kev, there's not much money in the Championship, as highlighted by the fact that Hull can't potentially get the money up for 3.5 million. So you try and do the deal to make the money on the back end, which is, as I think I was saying to Martin, if they do really well and they end up moving from Hull or whatever club Barry goes to and then Coventry respectively for sort of 15-20 million a pop, then we're going to make more money off the second transfer than we did off the first transfer. So
savvy.
That's quite savvy in terms of that.
Does anyone know if we've got one in for Duran?
I doubt it.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do. Anyway, he's gone on loan. So
he's gone on loan to Fenerbahce.
Yeah, but you're thinking at some point someone will buy him, won't they?
Yeah, I doubt it.
I don't think we do have a sell-on clause because we sold them for so much.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a sell-on clause included.
Yeah. But I think that there'll be certainly, as I said, I think there'll be one or two more outgoings. I think more of those. There's certainly fringe players that we need to try and get off the books. Obviously, Coutinho's gone as well. There's this situation with the wages, trying to get those down. So I think significant drop in wages for Coutinho, Dendoncker, one or two others. But then there'll be other players that will be offered improved terms. So we've still got to balance that up. And the turnover, we were part-time accountants here again, but that turnover will have increased a lot from the Champions League season from this year. So I don't think there'll be too much to worry about on that front. But yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these players from the academy. If anyone else moves on, does Bogard move on? Does one or two others? So that'll be an interesting thing to see. Right, just finish up. We've hit the 300 mark for tonight. Aren't watching us, which is just amazing. So again, one more call to like and subscribe, please, people, and keep your comments in. Keep your comments flying in. We've had plenty to talk about, which is really good, and I'm excited for. I think the first preseason games are 16th of July, isn't it, against Walsall? So all eyes on that coming up very soon. Couple of comments. Doran Tor says, leave our Elanga alone and hopes we are well. Nottingham Forest fan. Martin, Martin or Kev?
I'm going to say, hang on a minute. First of all, I don't think he hopes we're well. He's just told us to leave Elanga alone. You can't follow it with hope you are well. First to say, piss off. No.
What do you think of Anthony Elanga? Would you?
Great season. Good player. Got a lot of attributes. I think you've got to give huge credit to those signings of Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. Partner with with the pace and width from the side to get the ball, from wide to get the balls into to Wood. Really good. Wide left, Elanga. Was he wide left? Isn't he?
He can play both. Yeah, he can play both. He can. Yeah.
I think he'd be good. Yeah, whether we get him or not is another thing. But I think he's an improving contract. I heard.
I don't know what the situation. I know Newcastle have put in a 50 million bid. They had a 45 million pound bid turned down. Then they put 50 million in, and I don't think that's been turned down yet. But Nottingham Forest are adamant that he's not for sale. But then it said Aston Villa are monitoring the situation, which again, they've got the magnifying glass out, and then they're just monitoring it.
I think me personally, I wouldn't take Elanga. I just think that, although we had a great season with Forest and he is a good player, I'm not taking that away from him. But I think he suits that system with the manager that's there. Breaking out with a lot of pace and catching teams on the counter. I just think he suits that a lot. I don't think he'd suit our style of play with such possession based play, and maybe certain games if we are trying to catch teams on the counter, you do it, but is it really worth smacking out maybe 50, 60 million pound from, which is supposedly a valuation that Forest are looking for? Not for me, really, if you're only going to get a few good games out of him. So I think maybe for him, he should probably stay where he is because he suits that system so well and he looks like a 10 times better player. So I don't think we should be signing someone off the base of one good season. You need to have 2 or 3 for me.
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree with that.
Do you know who I would have liked? Semenyo, but signing an extension to his contract.
Yeah, well, I think Bournemouth have probably lost enough players, so I don't know if the fans would cope if they lost him as well. Michael said, what do you think of the quality of the Adidas kits? They look amazing.
The away one looks good now. I really want to get that. That's a nice kit now.
Yeah, it's lovely in it. But then the new players kit the pro kit is £120 and it's available to pre-order. So these days, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's great at all what the brands are doing now, where they're bringing out this shirt that's 85 quid that's the class as the replica, but it's now not just a different material, but it's a different design and it's got different patterns on it and everything like that, and a different collar to the actual pro shirt, which is then £120, and then they're staggering the release of it. So then people feel like they can buy the first replica kit and then feel that they have to buy the pro kit, which is I think that's a bit bad, if I'm honest. I think Newcastle are doing the same thing. Yeah. I don't like it at all.
Don't get wrong. I don't see a problem with making pro kits and replica kits, but I don't think there should be a big difference in prices for them as such. Like, if you want to make the replica £85, that's all good and well, but make, say, the Player Pro like 100, like that. That then, like, you might say, right, I might just go for the Pro one because it's only £15 more. Where a good 35 to £40 jump, it's not really worth the value if you're someone who doesn't really like the look of that.
And I just think if you've got young kids or it's almost getting into a point where they'll almost have both. They'll have the kit, the replica one at £85, and then they'll be like, "Oh, the Pro one's out. I want that one now." Yeah, and that's I just don't like that.
I think the strategy is just to get your kids really, really fat. And then they won't be able to fit into the Pro kit. Just give them biscuits all day. But then will that cost you as much money as it is to get the Pro kit? So
I don't even know, Kev. I don't even know if the Pro kit is
losing weight. He's looking great at this minute. Slim, and you want to say you want to get his kids fat?
Well, to be fair, if you're going to save on the kit, Richie's got himself in incredible shape to the point where he's going to be modelling the Pro kit on the next model.
But I don't even think it's like that anymore. I don't think the Pro kit is like I think it's just, I think that's the normal Adidas kind of climber cool material. And then I think Gaz has mentioned in the chat, like the £85 one is like the replica one is like the normal Adidas t-shirt material. That is, he said it's almost like the DH Gate one already. So yeah. But I do, you can wait until
you're playing, but then when you see the Pro one, you've got different material, all the dots.
Exactly, yeah. It's just it doesn't sit quite right.
About the cash, lads. It's all about the cash.
Yeah, but yeah, Credo says we're only on 27 likes. So please, guys, come on. We've got 285 people in the chat. Come on. Smash the like button. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll sell plenty of them. And as the first comment of Michael said, the quality of Adidas is great. I mean, I'm not one for buying football kits at all, but seeing though it's Adidas and I only really wear Adidas in terms of sports, I've gone mad with it. So, and I'll always wait until later on in the season when the prices drop a bit anyway. So yeah, but some of the stuff is class. I have to say they do a good job with all of that stuff. Final question, Stephen Hughes, bit of a fun one to finish off. If you could bring back any Villa legend, who would you bring back and why? And who do you think Unai would go for? Get in the comments. I'll give you a minute to maybe think about it, boys. Get in the comments your thoughts on who you would bring back. And who do you think Unai Emery would want to bring back? What legend would suit Unai Emery's system? Yeah, I'm not into buying football kits for the guy surrounded by him. Well, look, I had the Muller one was a gift, and then these two, like I say, I only bought them because this is Adidas. So yeah, but other than that, I don't buy them.
Well, until Stone Island start making the Villa kit.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Adidas or Stone Island. That's the only two.
I think to answer the question, and great question by the way, and keep the fun questions coming in by the way, because it's always nice to have a bit of light relief, bit of banter. I think it's easy to sort of pick the top scorers ever like Billy Walker or Pongo Waring. Someone said in the chat, but of course that was so long ago. Would they even be physically whatever good enough for it? So.
Well, not now.
Well, not now. If you could none of them would be if you brought Platt or Cavans. They're in the 50s and 60s now. I would honestly say David Platt. I think David Platt was. For those that don't remember David Platt, I mean, he did. There's a really good podcast. I mean, there are other podcasts I'll let you listen to. The Villa official one is fine. When he was on that, it kind of brought back so many memories. He's my first hero as a Villa fan, Platty, and I got a real fond memory of my old man. World Cup '99. My dad's been not with us for many years now, but he, as a 9-year-old boy watching England Belgium extra time, and Platt comes on, and he literally the kind of thing that a dad would say to his son, like I say to my son and daughter now. Gaza steps up to take the free kick at the 120th minute, and my dad goes, watch play here, son. And I'm like, do you reckon, Dad? Do you reckon? Swivel, one of the greatest World Cup goals of all time. His levels of performance for Villa for like, what was it, like the 3 or 4 seasons he was with us, the number of goals that he scored, the energy, you know, he was a midfielder, kind of basically became a striker pretty much. He was just a quality player, and I think he'd have the energy levels. I think he'd have the ability. I think he'd have the finishing. I think he'd have the leadership ability. I just think he'd be a real asset. So many to choose from, but I'll go for David Platt.
Nice. I'll come to you in a second, Martin, but Gaz Oak says McGrath, Gary Howlett says Pongo Waring, Stephen Van Leer says Steve Staunton, Adamski says Benteke to sell Watkins, Kevin says Yorkie, and Michael says Petrov so that he could retire properly.
Oh, nice.
Credo says just want to see Juan Pablo banging in a few worldies. Gaz Oak says Gavin McCann.
Yeah, stop the press. Gavin, get McCann. Yeah.
PJ says Sid, Brian Little, and Psycho Evans. Adam says a rogue shout. Richard Dunn, no nonsense. And Tony Morley as well, fantastic winger. Platt better than Gazas. He'll stand by that, says Gaz Oaks. And PJ said Sid Cowens for that creativity and passing from attacking midfield. So maybe slightly later for you, Martin, but who would you go for?
I have 2 different players. One that I would bring and one maybe for Emery. Me personally, I love Martin Larsson. I just think someone in there.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Break it all up. A proper leader. You'd have that back line, like just immense.
Could you imagine Larsson and Mings together? Like,
oh,
wow.
Larsson and Konza. Larsson looking over Ian Matson. Oh, and then I think one player that Unai would love in his midfield would be Petrov. I think Petrov would flourish under Unai Emery. I just think, it was a shame to what happened to Petrov, but he's healthy now, thank God. But I just think Petrov for Villa was just incredible. They'd be the 2 players that I would just love at Aston Villa again.
Nice. I think I would go for, because we need a bit of pace. I'd go for the main man, Tony Daly.
Yeah.
Out wide, friend of the channel. And
what a bloke.
Great bloke. He could probably still play now with his fitness.
Oh, he's
Gareth Barry would be a shout.
Yeah, Gareth Barry would be a shout. I did think about that for Unai Emery's choice. I thought about Gareth Barry, but maybe I'd say James Milner just for the engine, the consistency in midfield. So yeah, I'd maybe say that.
Could you also imagine Larsson with McPhee as the set piece coach? Larsson has 20 goals a season. He'd have this. There you go. 20 goals a season.
Yeah. But great question. Great question. Yeah, just bringing back memories of all the Villa legends.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah, brilliant stuff. Boys, I think that calls it a night. Fantastic fans forum again. You never know, might be back to the weekly fans forums. I think there'll be more to chat about in the next coming days. So yeah, make sure you stay looking out for the channel. I've got a potential show coming up with Gareth from a football analyst perspective of who he thinks Aston Villa need to sign. So look out for that one. Transfer talk as well, roundup shows. I'll be doing them over the next few days. So please do keep your eye out for the channel. And as I say, I'm sure we'll be back with fans forums coming up very soon. Next week, I think the players are back for pre-season. So we'll have plenty to talk about there, I'm sure. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. One last call, hit the likes and hit the subscribe button on your way out. Boys, always a pleasure. Everyone, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support of the channel. We'll be back very soon. But as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.